Okay.
Hi everyone, welcome to Hands on DevRel. I'm Brendan, and with me today I have Oanate. Uh,
Hello, everyone.
we're going to be doing something a little bit different today. We're going to do a live demo collaboratively, and we're going to be looking at technical documentation for developers across two different blockchain networks, right? So that's going to be interesting. But before we begin, maybe Oanate, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, Brendan. Hi, everyone. I am Owanate, lead technical writer at Rostock Labs, and yeah, excited to be here and looking forward to the results from this demo. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm Brendan. I'm DevRel at Injective Labs. And fun fact, right? We used to work together, right? And I've
Yeah.
actually got the T-shirt to prove it, right? So that's like the old school Rootstock logo. It used to be RSK back then, and this logo is not in use anymore. But it was back when
Mhm.
I was in it, like six, actually maybe 7 years ago now. So yeah, we've got some history. So Onate and I used to be in the same team. I was DevRel and she was a technical writer, and we were working together for quite a long time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's awesome that we get to collaborate again once more, even though we're at different jobs.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, so today we're going to be talking about a developer experience tool that is AI assisted, right? So when you have documentation, right, you write your own documentation and you are potentially blinkered, right? Like you think your own stuff is really good and you fail to see the problems with it. And that's when you do like research, right? You get participants who are not biased, i.e., not from the same company, or maybe even haven't seen your tool or product or your docs before, and then you get them to like give you their honest feedback. And
Mhm.
Onate actually came across this tool, and maybe you can introduce it.
Yeah. So I came across this tool Impersonaid on LinkedIn. I think shared by the creator Fabrizio. It was really interesting because now I thought about it in a way that now technical writers have a way to like actually vet their thinking or their thoughts before taking it to the stakeholder, right? So it's really great, and I wanted to try it out. And fun fact, Brendan also like, oh, have you seen this tool? And I said, yeah, I saw it, and it was a time for us to like, okay, now we need to like test it out and try it and see the results we get from this tool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So great minds think alike. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we both found the same tool, and we both instantly saw the value in it. And yeah, so here we are. So we decided to do a live trial of Impersonate. So far we basically cloned the repo and it's running. We just made sure that it's working, but then we wanted to hold off actually using the tool properly until we had a chance to do this recording. So here we are. Yeah. So from when I saw this tool, when we were discussing it originally, it was like we're going to do developer experience research, and you got to recruit participants, right? Humans. And what this does is it cuts out that last part, right? Recruiting humans. You just go, I want to do some DX research on my docs,
Yeah.
and I'll just go ahead and do it on my computer, and the human is replaced by the AI. That's very promising, right? If anyone has used like say vibe coding tools before, or generate a PRD for yourself, like it sort of can replace a human in like a product manager. To some extent it can sort of replace an engineer, but in both
Mm.
cases the person that the AI is replacing or substituting for, either fully or partially, is creating something, right, or
Yeah.
modifying something. Now in this
Yeah.
case the human that's being replaced is actually a research participant, which is a dynamic that I haven't seen before, right, in many of these like generative AI tools. And
Yeah.
it is specifically applicable to developer experience research. So I thought that was super interesting, at a very high level. And so This is us getting hands dirty, right, with the tool itself. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So,
Yeah.
so this is what the tool does, right? It lets you put in a URL and then specify a persona, which is the other thing I thought was really interesting, and then you ask it a question, right, about the docs, and then it'll basically give you a documentation review, right, and the rest of it's like installation instructions. So
Yeah.
that's essentially what we're going to be doing. And since I'm at Injective and Oanate is at Rootstock, right, we
Yeah.
are just going to take turns to do each other's documentation via this tool,
Yeah.
right? So first up, it'll
Yeah.
be Oanate being the research participant, but instead of her actually going through the docs, she's just going to give me the commands to type in, and then that will be used to review the injective docs, and then we'll flip it around and do the same thing where I ask questions, but instead of like me actually doing the review, Owenati will type in the commands for Impersonaid, and she will essentially review the the rootstock docs, right, via the
Yeah.
tool, and
Yeah.
we'll see what comes out. We'll probably discuss some pros and cons, and then we'll wrap it up. That's the idea of this session. All
Yeah.
right, are we ready?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
cool.
Totally.
Who I'm trying to think which one of us is going to do the screen share first?
Yeah, I think it was you. The impersonate repo um review. I think that's done. So yeah, we can.
All right,
You can go
so
next.
I've got Git. Let's see, like that, right? So I've got this cloned already, right? And just git log dash in one. So just in case, I'm on this particular commit, just so
Yeah.
that we have a record of that, and it's roughly from 10 days ago, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so this is the version that will be running, and I'll run it everything in the command line. I know it also has a web UI as well, but I haven't really had a chance to play with that yet. So I'll just stick to the command line for now. All right,
Mm-hmm.
let's take a look at the README. Um, let's see. So I've already done npm install, npm link, so that's good. I've already set up the config.toml, right? So you essentially want to do this where you have your API keys, right? You have to set these. I've already set them, but I'm not going to put them on screen. So there'll be an API keys thing, and then you put in Google and Open Router keys or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to be using Open Router for this. It's up to you which one you want to do. And then for each one, this one is where you select your model, right? So you can select GPT-4o or whatever it is you want. With Open Router, I believe you have to prefix it with OpenAI for GPT, for example, or Anthropic for any of the Claude models, so on and so forth, right? But essentially, that's how it talks to the LLM, right? So that's the kind of setup that I have already done, and then I'm just going to. Oh yes, one more thing is Onate has kindly created a technical writer YAML file. Hang on, let me
Yeah.
just mute my very noisy phone. All right, there we go. It's on silent. So, um, so there's personas, and so Onate has kindly created an additional persona for technical writer, which I've got copied over here. So we've got the three that ship with the tool: beginner, expert, and non-technical user. And then we've also got technical writer as well, which is
Mhm.
Onate's creation. And then maybe we
Yeah.
can, yeah, if we have time, we'll try that out. Okay, so we're ready to go. I'm just going to copy, and I'm going to copy this command over here, right? So I've got a list of personas, right? So I've got the three default ones, and then also this one. All right, and I am going to use this one over here. I'm going to copy my command, and let's see. So Onate, give me a question that you would like to ask about injective docs or reviewing injective
Yeah.
docs.
How do I How do I get started on Injective as a beginner developer, or as a as a first timer or as a beginner on Injective? How do I get started on Injective as a new developer on Injective?
All right, let's do that. Um,
So, you're using the simulation, the not the interactive one, the initial one.
yeah, yeah, I'll just use that one.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Oh, I remember this. The README says use beginner underscore developer, but um, you can't.
Mm.
So yeah, that was the first head scratching moment I had with this tool. All right. So thanks for that. Now I've run the command, and then it's fetched the page. Basically, it's done a, I guess, a call request equivalent, and then now it's talking to the LLM, waiting for its response.
Mm-hmm.
So give it a couple of seconds. I'm pretty sure the response has already started coming through, but I think this tool doesn't stream the responses, rather waits for the whole thing. In the meantime, there we go. Okay, so simulation response. Let's analyze this together, shall we? So,
Yeah.
do you want to read this and let me know, is it big enough? I'll make it a bit bigger.
Yeah. So it says, okay, so I'm looking at the injective documentation and I'm trying to figure out how to get started as a new developer. It seems like injective is a blockchain that's focused on finance. So yeah, it gets the tool gets the purpose or the injective as a tool or as a blockchain, which sounds pretty cool, but I am not entirely sure what all the features mean yet. The mention of pre-built customizable modules is interfere. What's that?
Interesting.
Interesting, rather.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how those work or how I should use them. The documentation suggests starting with creating a wallet, learning about token standards, and handling transactions. Yeah, so it's the tool actually like sees a starting point where it learns that it can create a wallet, it can learn about token
Yeah.
standards and handle transactions. That
Okay.
makes sense at a starting point, but I might need a more detailed one. So overall, to the last point, it says overall I need to find a quick start guide to injective wallet. Does this mean because of the prompts entered into the tool, how do I get started? Maybe just like assigns that to like maybe I need to get a quick start guide. Do you think that's
Yeah, yeah, I think so. So yeah, like from that, what is your like? Let's actually take a look at the actual page, right? So this is the page that it has just paused, right? And this is
mm-hmm.
what it contains.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's got links for the different personas, I guess, and then
yeah.
after that, getting started, there's wallet
Wallet,
and there's in
token
transaction.
standard and transactions. Yeah.
So how do you think the tool fared? Like, what's your opinion? Did it pick up on some things that you wouldn't have otherwise, or do you think it missed the mark in some cases?
Yeah, I think it did, of course, pick out key information like the what injective is, and also the wallets, the transactions. So from a first point time as a beginner, I can see that yes, from a bedside view, it's focused on finance, and I can create a wallet. I can create a transaction. I can learn about handling transactions, or I can learn about token standards. So yeah, it doesn't hit the mark 100%, but it definitely got some key points in.
Yeah, yeah. What I thought was interesting was actually the fact that you set this as a new developer on Injective, right? So that's
Yeah.
defining your persona. I know that we already have the persona defined in the YAML file, but then we kind
Mm-hmm.
of highlighted it, and so that gave it like a additional, importance in the prompt.
Yeah.
And so what I'm thinking, right, is like that says the current structure of the page, right? What this is highlighting is that, like phrases like, but I'm not entirely sure what all the features mean yet, blah blah
Yeah.
blah, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, like there isn't something that says beginner developers come here. Like there isn't something that says, hey, there is a persona.
Mm-hmm.
This particular persona is not being catered to, at least not in an obvious way, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to show my bias here and say that, hey, it does cater to this developer, but then it's not apparent from this page, and that's what this is highlighting. So the tool is actually pretty useful in that regard, like from its output. um, the other thing is that it hasn't really said this explicitly, right? It kind of says all of that stuff, right? Like saying, oh, there's this and there's that, A, B, C, D, like lists a bunch of things, but essentially, right? It's saying that the quick start is section essentially is like for, I guess, retail users, right? Like what are wallets, what are token standards, what are transactions, but then there's no developer quick start. So I think that's maybe, like, I know that there are developer quick starts in here, right? It's just that it's not
Mhm.
apparent from the landing page. And so that's like the other thing that I would glean reading between the lines
Yeah.
of this,
Okay.
the rest of the response.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess the
So,
tool is
so that would mean that would essentially mean having like a section on that page that has like dedicated to um breaking down the persona for the developer, so beginner, expert, or whatever. So how would that look like? Because in most cases the question is, do we want to like actually dive in into the different personas for a developer, or we just like cater to all kinds of developer and like maybe try to get those content inside of the docs for yeah.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you mentioned that, because that's actually what I've been doing, for the past few months, right?
Yeah.
I've recently finished, but essentially you can see here that the nav menu has been completely rearranged according to personas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's DeFi and infrastructure, which is for, I guess, users that aren't developers but are slightly technical. And then there's
Okay.
also developers, which is like a catch-all for all the things that are common between multiple developer personas. And then there's
Mm,
EVM developers, there's Cosmosm developers, which is another smart contract platform. There's DeFi developers, and then there's also native developers, which is like the, I guess, low-level Cosmos modules within Injective. So within developers, we've got four personas, right? But the thing is that this tool has not picked up that
yeah.
their persona is a beginner developer, completely new to anything, doesn't necessarily belong to any one of these. It has picked
Mm,
up that, that it doesn't know where to go, right? It's like, oh, there's this and
yeah.
that maybe. So the, I guess, takeaway from this response here is that there is something that can be improved from this page, right? Which is explicitly that, right? Say, are you a new developer? Then check this out. And then it
Mm,
could just sort of like form a directory to the sub pages that are within each of these developer sections over here that are specifically catered to beginners, right?
yeah.
Maybe that
Yeah.
could be the thing that we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, do you want to do another prompt, or shall we switch and where you do a screen share and I give you the prompt?
Yeah. Maybe we can switch.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to remove and add your screen.
So,
Okay.
we are still on beginner developer, right? Persona.
Maybe we can try a
Or
different persona. So
maybe
this
we can
time
switch
we
to an expert.
start out with a different persona. Yeah.
Maybe yeah. Maybe we can switch to an expert, or which
Sure.
one do you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything. Yeah.
Okay. So we're about to roast the roast talk documentation. So let's see if it caters to expert developers. Yeah, so I have my commands. You can see my
Yeah,
config.toml is set up. Like you can't see my API keys, but you can see the setup. So you can add your keys
yeah.
to the config.toml, and then we have the expert developer persona already set up. And
Uh-huh.
now I'm going to request from Brendan to like I have the rootstock documentation in the URL, like you can see on the terminal. Now,
Yeah.
Brendan, please go ahead and give me a prompt for
All
this
right.
tool.
Let's do this. Actually, can you switch to your Chrome so that we can see the rootstock docs?
This one.
So I'm going to be like a little bit more specific. Let's click on right at the top. I see a quick start doc,
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
button right at the top. Yeah, let's click on that. All right. Ah, okay. Let's go with this page, right? So can you copy
Okay.
that URL and then put that into your command?
Okay. So I'll just quickly clear
Yeah.
this one out, and actually, it's just supposed to be slash developer slash crystal, but yeah, the link is now
So
on the
then
command.
my request, right, or my question is, can I use EVM developer tools that I'm already familiar with in Rootstock
Okay,
for building smart
that's
contracts?
on Rootstock for building smart contract or for developing smart contracts.
Yeah, either way.
Smart contracts. That's it.
Yeah, so that
Question.
would be, yeah, correct. So let's do that.
Okay, so I'm going to enter and I'm using the Open Router module. It says expert developer not found.
Right. Yeah, it's gotta have quotes around it and expert space developer. So
Oh,
you
still, yeah, that's mm,
yeah, just open up the expert developer.yaml file and then copy it
yeah,
from the name field. It has to be an exact
okay,
match of
the
that.
experts. So I'm going to change. Okay, no worries. I have the experts and then developer. So let's try this
You need
again.
to put quotes around it as well.
Um, okay.
Yeah.
So enter. So let me just switch to Google. So we're using the Google module, and now it's simulating
All
and it
right.
saved the simulation. So yeah, Brendan, you
Do you
can read
think you
the
could
simulation.
make the font size just one notch bigger?
Sure. Think
All
this will
right.
be
Yeah.
better.
Sorry, my eyesight is not what it used to be.
No
Okay,
worries.
so it says rootstock is EVM compatible. Okay, so it's got that right. Um, docs mention tools like Remix, Truffle, and Hardhat. Okay, so let's see, because I know that Remix definitely works. Hardhat definitely works. Truffle used to work. In fact, that's what that I created a tutorial on Truffle back when I was at Rootstock. But it's been deprecated end of last year or maybe early
Mhm.
this year, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly. So
yeah.
is there actually a Truffle here? Truffle.
Actually, there is not any reference to truffle, but
Yeah, do you want
not
to just
sure why.
like I just did the same thing on my screen. If you want to just go to the quick start page on in Chrome and just type truffle and see whether there's any
Okay,
mention of it. No, no,
there's
like
no
in the
mention.
same yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like just in the search field for rootstock docs, right at the
So
top under
truffle,
yeah,
there's no mention of truffle. So let me do that again. Truffle.
yeah.
There's no mention of it. So if I just enter, I click enter,
It'll go to
it goes to
truffles. Yeah,
yeah, it
because
goes
it's
to
like a close
access.
sounding word. All
Yeah,
right,
probably.
so right, so it looks like we've got some hallucination going on there. Either that or it's getting this information from training data on the model and not from the actual website it's downloaded. So either way, it's
Yeah.
hallucinated, right? Can we
Yeah.
go back to VS Code, please?
Mhm.
All right, which are all standard. Okay, so it's got two out of the three things right. Um, few points that warrant further investigation: gas cost, merge mine. So, how does the gas cost compare? That's actually a very insightful question.
Mm.
Let me just take a look.
Giving.
So, interestingly, there is no mention of the gas inside of tools. That's interesting, right? So that first bullet point actually does raise a good point, right? So on on the rootstock docs, right, under slash developer slash quick start, right, you've got a list
Yeah.
of all of these tools, right? But then um, I guess there is a question, right? Like when you want to do a quick start, you don't only want the tools that do the quick start or like
Mm.
the templates for you to do quick starts with, right? You
Mm.
also additionally want to have a few questions answered. And so that's what this is highlighting, right? The quick start is what it really is like a set of starter kits or templates for quick starts, which
Mm.
is certainly important, right? If you're looking to do a quick start, but then what it's
Mm.
missing is like some basic information that you are looking for when
Oh.
you want to do a quick start, right? So I think that's probably the thing that it highlights to me. Let's take a look at the go back to VS Code and see the so block times and confirmation times, differences in opcodes. Aha. So this is like this number three and number four are actually quite insightful because um,
Yeah.
there are no opcode differences in rootstock unless it has changed since I left. But they're definitely pre-compiled contracts, right, that allow it to query data from the Bitcoin blockchain, right? Because it keeps it keeps it keeps in sync state in sync with the Bitcoin mainnet or Bitcoin
Yeah.
test, depending on which one, right? And it also has picked up that there is a bridge, right? And
Yeah.
so it wants to know how that's communicated, right? So these are like very rootstock specific, so it's not like a generic EVM compatibility thing that any other EVM network would have, but it's specific to rootstock. And so an expert developer, when they're doing a quick start, they might have these questions, and the quick start page doesn't really answer those.
Mm.
So that's
Answer
like
those.
yeah, that's like a takeaway that I would like. Let's say I was doing DX research for rootstock, and the participant said exactly this. All right, that's actually very useful for me, right?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
make a recommendation that the quick start page should be updated. Right. So
Mm.
let's see the summary. Mm, yes. Yeah, I would
Mm.
say that's a fair assessment, right? Um,
Yeah.
Now let's see. Let's see. I'm just on the rootstock docs again. I'm gonna say let's say I'm an expert developer. Let's go to the main page of the rootstock docs, right? So let's say I'm an
Yeah.
expert developer, but I'm gonna change my identity a bit, right? From having been an EVM developer before, and let's say I'm an expert developer still. So but I have not touched blockchain or Web3 at all before. So I don't know anything about the space. I'm just, like Web2 expert basically, right?
Mm.
So, um, so there's guides for builders. And then let's say I click on the second link or hang on, let me just see. Uh, Let me go to core concepts, right? So now
Okay.
I'm on dev.rootstock.io/concept/fundamentals. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So now that I'm on this page, right, let me think of a question for this one, right? Um, right. So okay, so I'm gonna ask a different question, right?
Mm.
Uh, Actually, maybe I'm gonna click on the rootstock stack. Okay, maybe not. I'm gonna go back to the rootstock fundamentals page, right? Um,
Mm.
Now. I'm going to ask a question from this page, right? So, so let's go back to the tool and have a new prompt, but the
Okay.
URL will be changed to this one.
Okay. All right. So what is going to be the prompt?
Yeah. So let's see. What do I want to ask for this? I'll say, um, what makes rootstock a good option to build on compared to other EVM compatible chains? Yeah.
Mm,
So I've heard of EVM. I've never developed on it before, and I'm making a decision as to whether to develop on this particular EVM chain or another one, right? So that's essentially what I'm thinking. So my question is,
mm,
um, what makes rootstock a good chain to build on
yeah,
compared to any other EVM chain?
compared to any other EVM chain. So quickly switch the URLs. Um, okay. So what makes Rootstock a good chain to build on compared to any other EVM
Chain.
chain?
Yeah.
So click enter.
Yeah.
And
Okay. Let's wait for it to respond.
yeah.
So Gemini Flash really is Flash, like it's much faster.
Hmm.
All right, let's take a look at the response. Okay, maybe let's have you do this analysis of the.
Okay. All right. So it says it's reviewed the fundamentals. As a senior developer, I'm interested in technical differentiators that will make me choose Rootstock or over other chains. So it says key areas of interest: Bitcoin merge mining. The documentation mentions merge mining. I'll go into deeper into merge mining hash rates, the economic incentive, if there are any risks involved, block time differences. It also talks about EVM compatibility. So if we go back to the page, you can see it has merge mining, and it also talks about EVM compatibility, two-way peg, the mechanism, that's the bridge, the native bridge, and then we have the scalability and smart contract development. So um I don't think this is interesting because the page just has references to merge mining with Bitcoin, and also mention of the native bridge, which is POPEC. But there is some key points here which involves there is no talk about scalability, at least on its separate in a separate section. And on that page, there is no mention of smart contracts, which is a good insight. And we still have mention of course, the EVM compatibility. So it says overall impression, the documentation provides a high level overview, but it lacks technical depth required for a senior developer. Yeah, so for me, the takeaway is to like improve this page, particularly to include references to scalability, EVM compatibility, and also smart contract development. So yeah, really, this is going to be a deeper level of insight and refining. But yeah, it's I agree. I agree with the responses, and
Yeah,
um, yeah, it's cool.
awesome.
Key
Okay,
mechanisms,
so
address potential risk and limitations, transparent. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I'd like to add a couple of things there. So if we just go back to the top of the response from Impersonate, the in VS Code.
this one.
So
Yeah,
what I thought this first part was Bitcoin merge mining, that hit the nail on the head, right? Like it is definitely one key differentiator that makes rootstock different. And if that's something that you care about, then you should certainly use rootstock compared to other blockchains, right? Um,
yeah,
'Cause it's the only one that does it in this particular way. And if that resonates with you, that's a key differentiator. So bang, like that perfectly answers the question, right? Now the next part where it talks about EVM compatibility, right? You can see what has triggered the it's mostly a hallucination, right? So there is the phrase EVM compatibility on this page, right? You can see right in
Mm-hmm.
the first paragraph, um, it says Ethereum smart contract capabilities, and also it has the phrase EVM compatible, right? And then from that, it has sort of made up the rest of the things. So that's like a half hallucination, if you will, right?
Yeah,
Um,
but
yeah,
it's probably not seeing that, maybe because of the way the page is structured. So maybe
yeah, yeah.
because there
So
is not many with Bitcoin like on its separate header. So
yeah,
maybe that's something to
yeah. No, I,
take
I
note.
agree. I agree with that. And yeah, but it's just interesting to see like the circumstances in which or how it chooses to hallucinate. Um, the the other thing is I think there is also like this concept of a useful hallucination, and that's apparent to
Mm,
me in like the next 3 points, right? So it talks about two-way peg, scalability, and smart contract development. So two-way peg is an outdated term. That's what the peg was called when I started at Rootstock, and by the time I'd left, it had been renamed and revamped, and it was now called PalPeg, right? Which is what is on this
yeah,
page. But what has
yeah.
happened is that this page, this response, doesn't use the phrase PalPeg, but it uses two-way peg somehow, right?
Mm,
So it has sort of formed that association, and then like because LLMs are predicting the next word or the next phrase in a sentence, right?
mm.
So I think the corpus of text, of historical text, at least in which it was trained, contains the phrase two-way peg
Two-way
far more
peg,
often.
exactly,
And so that's why it's
exactly.
to go with that. And so
Yeah,
what I think is interesting feedback from that point of view is that that actually does reflect the live experience of actual developers who may have had some experience with Rootstock of a while
mm,
ago, right?
mm.
And they may have heard the phrase two-way peg, and then they come here and they see pow peg and they don't recognize it.
Yeah,
So maybe
yeah.
that could be a like a suggestion here in saying that um,
Previously, it
two-way
was referenced as two-way peg. Yeah.
right, like
Okay.
previously known as two-way peg,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
yeah. So that could be something that you add here. And then the next two are like sort of they're not a half hallucination anymore. It's full-on hallucination. It doesn't really say any of these things with like to do scalability and smart contract development. But the thing is that I'm not sure whether it is a scalability, whether it is a hallucination, if you will, because it's kind of phrased it as a question in the bullet points, the sub bullet points. So let's give it the benefit of the doubt, right? Saying it's either picking up on something that should have been said without hallucination, or it's hallucinated, but it's a useful hallucination because you get some insight from it. Either way, right? Um, these are good things, right? Like this page
Mhm.
probably
Yeah.
should mention scalability and smart contract
Yeah.
development. If
Yeah.
and I understand that like you've got like some need to keep the pages compact and like to the point, if you will, and so you don't want to like overload every single page with every single piece of information, right? That would be poor
Yeah.
documentation. But
Mm.
it would make sense to include at least one sentence of each of these and then
Yeah.
hyperlink to another page which contains that information about scalability and smart contract development, right?
Hmm.
Because if
Yeah.
the developer sees this and he has those questions, genuinely has those questions, then it is better that they land on this page and immediately see that their questions are going to be answered, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
like
there's,
sort of sorry.
yeah. And there's what you said about useful, like as hallucination. So definitely it's useful. And like you said, maybe one line references, or like just short references to smart contract scalability would be useful. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yeah. So I think this has been useful, a useful response, a bit more useful than the previous one, at least.
Yeah,
um,
yeah. Yeah, I think the question was like sort of framed, and it matches with the actual. expert developer, if you could say. So it gave more insights. So maybe we could try another sort of phrasing for the other beginner developer, maybe um, more suited to that persona. So from what I see from this response, the prompt actually is aligned with the persona expert developer. So there's more in-depth insight into what the output is.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. Let's do maybe one last one, right? And
Okay.
um, I think maybe I'll put my screen back on,
Okay.
and so this is one where I would like you to basically play the technical writer, and you give me a prompt, right? And
Okay.
then and I want to use the technical writer. Um,
Mm-hmm. All
uh,
right.
so I'm just going to create a new command, right? And I will use the technical writer persona. And um, why don't you give me a question, right? So let's go to injective docs and let's pick a different page. Which pages do you want to go for, or do you want me to
Yeah.
suggest one?
Yeah, maybe we could try the architecture. Maybe I could ask something like maybe look at the review the injective architecture, the way it is structured for findability, maybe something like that. How will the custom wasim developer like sort of easily find documentation related to them? So maybe a phrasing like that.
Right. Okay. So you want to start on this page then, the
Yeah.
custom page. All right. So within that, you've got all of these pages. Do you want to start on the root page or one of these specific
The
ones?
the create your swap contract guide or mainnet deployment guide.
This one? Create your
Yeah.
swap contract. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So this
So
looks like a tutorial, right? Let's go ahead with that one. All right. So I'm gonna punch in this command. All right. And then what would your question be on this page? So
my
so
question here, yeah, my question here would be, how do I find related? How do I find um, how to create a swap contract as a custom WASM developer on Injective?
all right. So
Does this is this a good prompt for findability? Maybe because that's my purpose here to like find the docs.
uh, on so the question was, how do
How
I
do I create a swap contract as a custom WASM developer on Injective?
yeah. Okay, and this is okay. So let's run this command anyway because I think it'd be interesting to see what a technical writer finds out, right? And we'll just wait for it. But my comment on that is that a technical writer, right, wouldn't. This is the kind of question that a developer would be asking, right? So
Yeah,
what
yeah,
would a technical writer want to know on any given page of a documentation, right? And given
yeah.
that,
That
yeah,
that was my question about the findability. Like I
yeah.
wanted to like how will the LLM find that information for custom Watson developer on the docs? So I wanted to check for findability of that content.
Right. So maybe the question should be around analyze the navigation structure from the main page, right? So the root page,
Okay,
and see whether they could find the information that they wanted. Yeah.
okay, okay.
So
Yeah, okay.
all right.
So
So here's
review
this
or
here's the
analyze.
response.
Yeah,
Uh,
analyze the. Oh, it's actually.
yeah.
Mm,
So okay, but I think maybe yeah. Let's skip that response and go to the prompt that you actually wanted to do, right?
yeah.
So um, so I'm gonna remove all of the
So
parts. Let's do
review, analyze the injective navigation, left navigation to be precise,
navigation menu, and
navigation
then
menu. Yeah, and audit or tell me how to or check or review or get what's the code
Maybe
um
just how easy is it to find?
how easy to find the contracts or reference documentation for custom Watson developers yeah, that's it.
And then, did you want to do the the one we were at just now, like specifically create a swap contract?
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. So how easy is it to find
Specifically,
custom Watson developers, specifically how to create swap contracts on Injective? Yeah, okay.
okay,
Do you
go
want
that
to add Injective
way.
or it's not necessary?
Yeah, maybe not because we've already specified the
The
URL. Actually,
URL.
let's
Okay.
just see what it does. Um, it might reveal a hallucination on like another level if it talks about a different blockchain. You never know, right? It might just
Yeah.
default to Ethereum because that's far more prevalent in the LLM corpus data that was trained on.
Yeah, okay. But for custom WASM, it's specifically related to Cosmos or Injective, right? So maybe
Yeah. Okay, let's take a look at the
uh,
response. As a technical writer, blah blah blah, right? Given my background, interested in docs and supporting developers, yep, that makes sense. Okay, so it's understood the task, right?
mm, yeah.
Comment on the overall structure and navigation. Seems to be organized around user roles. Oh, that's interesting. I did not expect it to pick that up, right? So
Yeah.
it actually uh, got a good insight on that one, which is good
Mhm.
practice. Okay, great. Yay. Okay, so however, evaluate ease of finding specific information. Look at the navigation menu more closely, which is exactly the task. User role segmentation. Okay. Developer section. Expect to find it under. Okay, so this is interesting, right? So the tool is actually going through it, this and verbalizing, you know, what the thought process is, and that's exactly what
Yeah.
ask people to do, research
Yeah.
participants to do when they're participating in DX research, right? That's exactly
Mm,
what we tell them to do. So
mm.
I'm actually really happy with this response so far, right?
Yeah.
um, Search functionality. Okay, hang on, it says
There's a developer
Cosmos
section.
developers, yeah,
Mm,
Cosmos development, great. Okay, so it's asking those questions. Then it uses the search button or tries to, or says that it's important rather, and then a quick start guide. All right. So essentially,
mhm.
what I'm picking up from this is that it's verbalized its thought process over like I think for 4 bullet points, maybe 5 bullet points
Mm,
of what it's been thinking, and then it didn't manage to find the thing that it wanted to find in the menu. Now,
mm.
this is interesting, right? Because what we specified in the question was um, right. We told it it was specific to CosmWasm developers, and then
Yeah.
gave it the title of the subpage, right? And then if you do that,
Yeah.
right? And it's right underneath there. But somehow it has managed to miss it. So I am I'm starting to think like this while this approach was very valid and it's behaving exactly like the ideal case for a DX research participant, right? The fact that it went to this bullet point over here and then subsequently did not manage to find the create your smart contract
Smart
thing,
contracts.
right? That is a bit of a miss because I would have
Mm,
expected like a human to miss it if they sort of misunderstood the instruction or they didn't
yeah.
know or we didn't specify that it was specific to CosmWasm, right?
Yeah.
But given that we had, a human would have found it. So yeah, like very happy initially with what the tool did, but then
Mm. It's
subsequently,
still the use. Is it
yeah,
still? but pandering to the useful and as hallucination stuff that you
Yeah,
mentioned.
yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know, like it's pros and cons, right? So the tool is useful to some extent. Actually,
Mm.
that's a good segue. Maybe let's go back to the repo and like sort of just talk about this tool in general, and sort of wrap up. Like, what do you think the pros and
Yeah,
cons of using a tool like this are?
yeah. It's for a first time, like vetting or like having your thoughts or what you're thinking in terms of for me as a tech writer, it's now a case of I have a tool I can actually get to vet my ideas or my thought processes before actually getting a human to actually do the testing. So it still doesn't totally leave out the human touch it for DX research. So it's still necessary, of course, to get human, but in terms of impersonate, you have kind of like have something to benchmark your writing or your structure as a tech writer before you actually publish the documentation. So it's a good one. But like you said, pros and cons. It's not yet there, but I believe with more refinement, it's going to get good. And yeah, still, of course, LLMs we need to always vet with a human. So it's kind of goes back to the original, which you need human on you need a human um insight into this. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my take on.
Okay, yeah, agreed on all points. Um, so my thoughts on this are that I have found that there is, like, we didn't really discuss this during what we explored, but the fact that we had to copy a specific URL within the docs
Mm-hmm.
and put that inside the command line, and then have it read only that page, that is kind of a very serious limitation of the tool, because what would an actual human do, right? I'll give you an example, right? So the what the tool is kind of doing is downloading this whole page, and it has all of this menu in that single page, and then is parsing the HTML tags that correspond to each of these, right? So it's like parsing it like text.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would a human actually do when they started off, right? They'd see here, okay, they know it's related to cousin wasn't developers. They'd click on that and they go to this page. And then maybe they get distracted and go to another sub page here or something, right? Or
Yeah.
maybe they would have like they notice that these menus can be uncollapsed like an accordion, and then they'll look and scan this, and then they'll see that, and then they'll click it, and then they will read this page, and so on. But what you'll notice is that this is one, this is two, this is three, this is four. In order to get there, you navigated to four different pages, right?
Mm.
And the tool did not do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah.
was, I mean, that kind of pervades all of the commands and all of the questions and all the personas that we gave it, right?
Yeah.
Um, which is that no matter what, you had to tell it which page to go to look for the information.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
kind of like, if you were actually to do that in a real DX research, then that would be like a biased
Yeah.
experiment,
Great.
right?
Yeah.
Like, you're
Yep.
telling them,
Yep.
hey, look at this page, and then like, then it just becomes like an English comprehension exercise. It doesn't
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's like, I would say, the most serious limitation of the tool, although we didn't really get to demonstrate it properly, but it kind of
Mm-hmm.
is sort of like underlying apparent, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. For me, it would be, can I pass in the actual domain
Yeah,
dev.injective, and it sort of like picks up the other ones and like relates it to the prompt. So yeah, that should be
yeah.
the ideal
I,
scenario,
I would I
especially.
would go like a bit further, right? Like, I would say, like, right, go to Google, and this is your start page, and then, like,
Mhm.
right,
Yeah.
how do I build EVM smart
Yeah.
contracts on rootstock, right? Because this is what an actual developer would do, right?
Exactly.
Right, and then they would, some people would say, I like videos, so I'm going to go click on on one of these videos, and some
Yeah.
people would say, I would like to read a blog post, or I would like to read the docs, and then they would come, to this blog post, or to the docs, right? That's what an actual developer would do, right? They aren't going to
Mm-hmm.
be like, I'm going to start on the rootstock docs. They wouldn't have
Yeah.
made that information up front,
Information.
that,
Yeah.
that decision
Yeah.
up front, I should say.
Yeah, and this also, it begets the question about how does the, maybe something about the way LLMs like read or still get to understudy the way data is read by LLMs, so we can actually structure the docs or structure websites to be that, right? So probably there is still limitation, of course, and LLMs.text is still a new concept. So maybe also that could be why the like responses, or it's not looking at it from the overall perspective point of view, and you have to give it a specific URL. And also, you see, for Google, it brings out similar responses, it brings out videos. So there's probability that the markdown and the structure for docs at the moment, we do not have it yet defined on how LLMs are crawling this
Yeah,
information.
yeah. I think that word that you just used at the end, crawling, is kind
Yeah,
of the missing feature, right? It needs to be
yeah,
able to crawl,
crawl, yeah.
what a search engine would do, or what
Mhm.
a human would do manually and much slower than a search engine, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
like what like a package tool that is a wrapper around the LLM, such as ChatGPT or
Mm,
Claude, how it would
mm,
approach the task, where it not only like sends request and response, and streams of responses from the models, right? But it would also do things like tool calls, or RAG, or web searches, whatever, right? Like, it do all of those things, um, and then take your prompts plus the results from all of those things, stick it
result from
together, and then use that to prompt to make
prompts.
the
Yeah,
request to the LLM, right? That
yeah.
is essentially what I think would improve this tool, right? That's how. And then this tool doesn't seem to have that ability baked in, or maybe we're
Hmm.
mistaken, don't know how to use the tool properly
Yeah.
yet. But yeah, for a first run, that was like my impression on the biggest limitation. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Really nice. Really nice, and shout out to the creator,
yeah.
Fabrizio Ben.
I
Yeah.
mean, I know we're dunking on you and all of that, but future PR,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and by the way, I was the one who created the
The pull
the
request.
issue, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the feature request for
Okay.
adding Open Router, and thanks for adding it, in time for this, like just a few days ago.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, okay, so next insight was hallucinations, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of hallucinations. I feel that maybe the tool could have had a better system prompt or something to reduce hallucinations. Um, or I don't know how else to solve it. Like, context engineering, perhaps, right? So maybe instead of just asking the question, maybe the additional context could have been provided. I'm not sure. And maybe that additional context was supposed to come from the personas. So maybe
Mm.
the solution to reducing hallucinations is to have a much more detailed persona in the persona file that's being used. Maybe that's an option, or maybe the system prompt that the tool uses, I haven't looked at it yet, should be improved. Um, that being said, right, hallucinations, as we found out live today, are sometimes useful.
Useful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like useful hallucination, right? I have not said that phrase before today, but here we are.
Yeah.
So seeing how an LLM hallucinates, and kind of thinking, why did it hallucinate that, right? And then why did it do that, whatever that reason was? Like, think that a few
Mm-hmm.
times, and then why, and then you get to some sort of root cause or some insight, right? And then that will give you, like, surface some, well,
Yeah.
new ideas, new concepts for you to explore in improving your documentation. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
hallucinations are sometimes useful.
Yeah.
um
Yeah. I
yeah,
agree.
and I'll come back to the point about personas that I mentioned briefly earlier on, right? So I think that the ability for this tool to allow you to define your own personas, right, is excellent, right? So, like, this is DevRel 101, right? You need to understand your developer personas in order to serve them better, right? How do you write
Mhm.
docs for a developer? There's no such thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
How do you run a hackathon for a developer? Again, no such thing,
mhm,
right? So anything you
yeah,
do in DevRel, including docs, right? You need to have particular personas that you want to
yeah,
serve, right? And
mhm,
that's the and this tool, like the design of this tool has that embedded like as a key feature, and I really really
mhm,
like that, right? And I want to continue exploring this tool, if not for any other reason than this,
mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then I think like maybe one final point that I had. This is like similar to the concept of a rubber duck. Like, so when I used to be a software engineer, um, it was actually a thing where they get like these little toy, like the bathtub kind of ducks, the little yellow plastic ducks, and you put it on your table, and no one would actually do it, but they'd have it. And whenever you had a question that you wanted to ask someone, you go over to their desk. This is like pre-COVID and whatever, right? You go over to their desk and you ask them that question, and sometimes they don't want to answer you, and then they just say they point to the duck, right? Because I'm in the zone, so talk to the duck, right? Kind of rude, but also useful, because like when you verbalize it to something, even though that thing doesn't really have any intelligence, it just looks at you blankly like a plastic object, right? You get insight from that, like you're reflecting yourself on through this
Yeah,
plastic object, right? Or and
yeah,
that's the beauty of the rubber duck, right? And I felt like this overwhelming sense of how similar this experience with using this AI generated or generative AI tools, right, to
mm,
impersonate a like a particular persona on your docs, right? I found that concept like kind of uncannily similar to that experience of the rubber duck, right? Like just
yeah,
by forcing
yeah.
you to verbalize your thoughts about the docs, and like by saying ask this question on this particular page or whatever, right? Like
Mm,
that gets you thinking, and then when you see the response that comes back, which is better than a rubber duck, right? Even though
mm,
it's like rife with hallucinations and other stuff, right? Just having a response in general that is related to something that you said is so useful, right? Because it gets you thinking
yeah.
in a way that you wouldn't have if it just was in your head. So yeah,
Mm.
I think that's like another great utility of this tool.
Yeah, I agree. And probably the next step will be we implement these suggestions, and like we come back in the next 3 or 2 months to like, okay, let's use the same prompts or use the same and check what is now the response from the LLM. And come to think of it, the the response, as it's new with LLMs, I would like to see how does this response, or where, how did you like come about this response? Are other documentation or are other blockchain sites doing this exact same thing, and are they achieving success with it? So it's like, do I really want to take the response, or of course I need to also do my research to make sure that, okay, from other sites or from other tools, or docs, this is what is obtainable, and we can get actual results. So it now comes to, um are people actually able to find custom, are custom wasn't developers actually able to find how to write smart contracts, and what is the metrics that we can measure with regards to findability, or with regards to how people see the or find information on the rootstock documentation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'll steal all those ideas and put them to use on injective docs as well.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, but actually, that would be that's actually a good thing, right? You said you mentioned the word metrics, right? So like I'm thinking, like, what if, right, we took that idea and ran with it to the nth degree, like take it to the max, right? How would
Mhm.
you create a metric for this? Because
Mm,
I would say the answer might be a benchmark, right? So you define a set of personas, and for each persona, a set of questions, right, that you
mm,
wanted to inquire with the dots, and then you you basically get this tool to run like a batch script, right? And
Mm.
ask all of those questions from all of those personas, one by
Mm.
one, and
Yeah.
then somehow like look at the responses and see whether it was a pass or a fail, right? And then you count the
Mm.
number of passes out of the total number, and that would be your benchmark, right? Like, did it
Mm.
manage to find the information,
Find
did it
information.
or did it hallucinate some information or whatever, right? Like maybe it's not just pass or fail, maybe there are other things, but formulate some sort of scoring mechanism, right, for each of
Mm.
the responses, right? Like you'd have, I'm thinking almost like a test case, right? So like
Mm.
you
Yeah.
would have a test case, and the test case would be like, if they got this question for this persona, this would be the ideal response. This is what we want to attain, right? But
Mm.
this is what we actually got, and then you analyze it. And I would say like a benchmark, like that implies usually like several hundred questions. But
Mm.
given that this is likely to be like qualitative, right, in terms of like analyzing each response, and you only need uh, like the only quantitative thing is like sort of like the aggregate data of like pass fails or whatever we decide to do with this,
Yeah.
right? I'm thinking, something as short as like 20 questions, like maybe if you have four personas and each one has 5 questions, that and then you analyze them. You could even do that manually, right? If you want to do it like
Mm.
once a
If
month or
you want
something,
to.
once a quarter,
Yeah.
right? That would be
Yeah.
like a really good metric, and it's a kind of metric that I would say is impossible to do with humans, right? But with this tool, with this generative AI tool, you could
You could
actually,
always,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly, a repeatable,
repeat.
make it
Yeah.
repeatable. And
Mm-hmm.
you probably have to do some things like this, in the system prompt, set your randomness score to like the minimum possible, so that you don't get too much variation, right? It does exactly what you tell it to do.
What? Mm.
Yeah, so that'd be something that'd be interesting if you could, like sort of batch mode a bunch of questions from different personas and then turn that into a benchmark somehow. Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
think
that
it's also there's a tool called Docs as Tests. It's a tool that this tool and that tool can actually fit in, because Docs as Tests enable you to like actually run repeatable tests on your docs and check the output against the original. So this tool can be it's something to play around with for those both tools. Yeah,
is it.
Docs as Tests. Yeah,
Okay,
this one.
actually not familiar with this concept, so I'm learning something new.
Yeah, I think it's the both of them would fit quite well in terms of the repeatable commands. It's
I get the idea. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I'm familiar with some subset of this, right? Which
Okay.
is where like you have your test cases
Yeah,
within your code,
with the
and then you
code.
programmatically extract those test cases and put them
Mm,
inside your docs.
yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
kind of like a Java doc kind of tool or a
yeah.
ES doc kind of tool to extract it. Yeah, so I'm
Mm,
familiar with that subset of it, but this looks far more comprehensive.
mm.
Okay, I'm gonna have to explore this. Yeah, awesome. All right. Did we have anything else for pros and cons before we wrap up?
No, for like again, cons, you need the human, you need to know what you're doing, of course. So you don't just take the useful hallucination. So you need to like do your own research and make sure that it's you are refining what the output is, and yeah, that's that's my take.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So I would say like my summary is like maybe feature requests for Impersonaid. Fabrizio, if you're listening, like the navigation between URLs, or the ability to crawl like SEO type crawling, search engine type crawling, that would be an amazing feature for this tool to
Mm.
add, right? So that you don't have to specify a single URL, but rather specify maybe a start URL and have it navigate from there within the same subdomain, right? That would be like a really good feature to have. The other one is, I'm not sure whether it is possible or feasible, but to achieve fully, right? It definitely isn't 100% fully, but if there could be some improvement to be made in terms of like reducing the hallucination level, right? By changing the system prompt, or maybe by having better personas available in the default persona set that we can just copy in subsequent ones, right? That would be amazing, right? Yeah, I would like to make those two feature requests based on this exploration that we've done today. All right. Okay, let's wrap up. So this has been an excellent exploration of this tool, and it's also the first time I've done this format in this YouTube channel.
Yeah,
So
this one. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm
Maybe we could
very
have it like roast your dogs, regular roast your dog session.
yeah, actually,
And
yeah,
we,
roast to dogs. Yeah, except that no hard feelings because the AI was roasting your dogs, right?
yeah, yeah, and of course, it's like you're getting human opinion on your documentation. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
win-win, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it's actually like this is like something you just said made me think of this, right? Where it's not that the AI is roasting your docs necessarily, although that's superficially that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that you are looking at how it roasted your docs, and then you are
Mhm.
roasting the roaster, if you will. So it's like kind
Yeah.
of got like two layers rather than one, and that is kind of along the lines of asking why repeatedly until you get to a root cause or an insight. And so that's why
Hmm.
I think it's like it's got an additional layer of value, right? Because you got the
Yeah.
AI sort of like doing the first cut, and then
But,
you do the
but
second cut as a human
exactly,
afterwards.
exactly,
That's actually
exactly.
yeah pretty powerful, right?
Yeah,
Something that you wouldn't be able to do, not easily
exactly.
anyway,
Yeah,
if you were to do this the traditional DX research way.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and it's cheap. It's easily accessible. You don't need to like run a get to recruit testers or and yeah, that's
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
first. Yeah,
totally.
take it's totally cool. Yeah.
I would estimate like the API costs for the queries that we ran today, like it would be under 10 cents. Like I'd be surprised
Hmm.
if it was even more than 5 cents. It's
Yeah, yeah,
very cheap. Just buy credits and
yeah,
use API keys.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Cool, cool.
Okay, cool. Let's wrap up. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Roast My Docs show, AI
Mm-hmm.
edition, right?
Yeah,
First of its kind. And
yeah,
yeah, hopefully we do this again sometime soon.
yeah. Thank you. Excited. Really
Yeah,
learned a lot. Yeah. Thank you,
awesome.
Brendan.
Yeah,
Bye.
like, ciao, bye.
Thank you. Bye.